só serve pra fuder. Essa porra. Caralho. Peso lixo. Aqui. Vem. Peso de merda. Gatos de empresa de bosta. Vamos voltar ao vídeo, né?
To internet humor and what people think is funny, it changes week by week. But one topic seems to remain constantly funny to everyone, that being middle school tier toilet humor.
Why does it smell like caca and wee-whiz in here?
And with that preface stated, in this chapter we're going to be looking at not just one location, but two, Poo Poo Point and Pee Pee Creek. The former is a hiking area situated in Issaquah, Washington, and is officially listed as such on Google Maps. According to the Washington Trails Association, Poo Poo Point was given its unique name due to the constant steam whistle sounds that could be heard during logging of the area and the trains that moved the logs back and forth during the early 20th century.
Pera, os caras não falam tchu-tchu, os caras falam pu-pu.
Apparently, to these people, the sounds of a train whistle sounds like poo-poo. It's what I'm thinking here. That's not how I would describe a steam engine whistle sounding, but yeah. Issaquah and the area surrounding Poo Poo Point have a rich history, both geographically and culturally. According to the city's official website, Issaquah has a population of around 40,000 people and is located about 17 miles from Seattle. The city is surrounded by the Issaquah Alps, and weather is described as a moderate northwest climate. By contrast, Pee Pee Creek was a relatively obscure river located in the wilderness of Pike County, Ohio. While you might expect the origin of this name to be comedic in nature, like some colonial American just taking a fat piss in it and that's why it's called Pee Pee Creek, there actually is some deep historical lore here. According to an article written by Doctor of American History Andrew Freight, the origin of Pee Pee Creek's name comes from settlers who began exploring the region that we know now as Ohio. One of the settlers, named Peter Patrick, allegedly carved his initials into a tree that grew next to what we now know as Pee Pee Creek. About a decade later, a different group of settlers discovered these markings. Not knowing why they were there, they decided from that point onwards to call the nearby river Pee Pee Creek. And the name has stuck ever since. Other than the comedic similarity of their names, Pee Pee Creek and Poo Poo Point have almost nothing to do with each other and they're geographically quite different. being on the opposite side of America, and, you know, one's a mountain and one's like in a river valley. Though this disconnected nature would change. The process of spiritually connecting Poo Poo Point and Pee Pee Creek began when internet users stumbled across the odd locales and churned out various toilet humor memes. One of the most popular memes joked about how someone should travel across country between the two destinations, bringing forth the idea of a legendary, you know, meme-inspired road trip. Nobody actually expected anyone to go through with something so absurd, but one individual actually rose to the challenge, that man being Ruben Lopez. He would decide to make the journey himself, on a fucking bicycle. Throughout his journey, Lopez was biking between 80 and 100 miles a day. He had to deal with a multitude of issues, such as flat tires and getting stranded. At the end of his journey, he posted about his accomplishment to Twitter and Instagram, sharing photos to commemorate his success. In one video that Ruben took near the end of his trek as he approaches Pee Pee Creek, he actually breaks down into tears, acknowledging how ridiculous and trying the journey had been.
Dude, I'm really crying right now. It's so stupid. It's fucking Pee Pee Creek. Oh my god. Oh, what am I doing here? Oh, I feel good though. Oh, I feel good. Let's go!
As it turns out, this stunt hadn't just been done for laughs, but to raise awareness for a cause Lopez believed in, stating, quote, "The main reason I am doing this is to raise money/awareness for the humanitarian crises Yemen is currently facing. Any retweet and donation helps. It all goes to one of the most trusted charity organizations in Yemen." The GoFundMe that his Twitter post linked to far exceeded the set goal, netting over 11,000 in donations. Since then, the meme surrounding both of these locations has died down, but the connection between them has been forever solidified in internet history thanks to Ruben's journey. I actually have an entire video telling the story of Ruben's journey from Poo Poo Point to Pee Pee Creek on my channel, and you should watch it. It's a really amazing and touching story. I got to meet Ruben in person one time when he was visiting Nashville. He's a great dude. Shout out to the legend. Squidward Community College. While there are certainly a fair number of actual real-world locations that are fascinating to gawk at, this next one in many ways is like an ARG version of that. Over the past few years, an image has been floating around of what appears to be a building labeled Squidward Community College. The photo shows a small white building with a crude drawing depicting the iconic character from the SpongeBob TV series, and it's been shared around in numerous popular meme formats since its inception. While obviously photoshopped, one of the more interesting aspects of this particular story is people's dedication to the bit. A YouTuber named Wow Mao created a video showcasing the college's would-be amenities all the way back in 2019, with one of the jokes being that there was a Squidward-themed art gallery located inside. Though the memes surrounding it were funny, people began developing an interest in the real-world location it was based on. Like, where is this actual building in real life, and what could it hold? Yeah, we all know it's Photoshop, but you're telling me there's like a chance this could be a real college? The answer to this question was surprisingly not as straightforward as you might think. It's been quite the task to determine the origin of this image, given the fact that the surrounding area places like Hell, Norway, or Middelfart, Denmark. One of the more curious of these weirdly named locales that people use to make memes comes in the form of Disappointment Island, a strangely named place with a surprising amount of lore. Why was this island a disappointment, and who was it a disappointment to? Disappointment Island is located 295 miles off the shore of New Zealand, pretty much on the edge of the earth, situated next to the much larger Auckland and Adams Islands. It's often forgotten, simply being lumped into the Aucklands when people discuss it. Disappointment Island's geographical history is fairly interesting. According to the official website of the New Zealand Department of Conservation, the islands were formed from previously active volcanoes. They are also described as being full of cliffs and diverse wildlife. Completely uninhabited by humans, Disappointment Island has been used as the basis of several internet memes. While this may not be the most popular, strangely named location, the meme surrounding it has been around for quite some time, and it's worth discussing. If you go to its Google Maps page, you'll see that there are over 200 reviews, with most of them being obvious jokes. While you might expect this to be just another island with a silly name, that actually couldn't be further from the truth. In a piece written for the New Zealand Museum in 2018, Colin Miskelly, a bird expert, wrote extensively about the incredible amount of biodiversity on the unassuming landmass. Admittedly, it's a very dry read. However, he does include a significant amount of photos of the local wildlife, proving that the island was in fact more than its name would imply, at least if you're someone who gives a shit about birds. Animals aside, the article fails to fully describe how the island got its Disappointment Island name in the first place. The question of why Disappointment Island would remain relatively unanswered, though more of its historical context was discussed in an article by The Spinoff, a New Zealand news agency. In this lengthy piece, the author describes several shipwrecks that had occurred on the island. The first of note occurred all the way back in 1864, with stranded crew members surviving off the island's resources until a group of them were able to make it back to the mainland and get help. The shipwrecks became so common that the New Zealand government placed supplies in rudimentary huts across the island in case anyone managed to find themselves stranded. Despite all of these stories, the article ends off by claiming the true origin of the name is unknown, disappointingly not giving any definitive answers. However, according to the Wikipedia article for Disappointment Island, which got its information from academic sources, the name was coined by a European explorer named Abraham Bristow. Bristow was an explorer and hunter who stumbled across the location in 1807. Apparently, the reason for the Disappointment Island name came from its lack of fur seals and civilization. There was just nothing of use there to the man. While this may have been an underwhelming explanation, I think it's kind of hilarious that the entire island was named off some greedy fur seal hunter being pissed about it not having seals, and it's just been named like that for 200 plus years. I want to give a major shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys. Wavy Web Surf out. Peace.
Oh! Gay fool.
Dor de cabeça. Chama quem é craque em resolver. 15 minutinhos e...
Y'all know Red Bull, these high energy drinks, blah blah, you know, this is another one again from China, and again, I guess it's supposed to make you feel happy, excited. You see why it's 99 cents. This is gay fuel.
These days, you go to any store and you have a million different options for an energy drink. Celsius, Bang, C4, Ghost. But just a few decades ago, the market for energy drinks was a lot smaller. Although it was already popular in its native Austria, Red Bull only came to the US in 1996. And before then, Americans largely had no idea that such a thing existed. Shortly after, you'd get other brands popping up like Rockstar and Monster. Around the same time that Red Bull came to the US, you'd also get Ball's energy drink.
Balls?
And while Red Bull's marketing was turning it into the Kleenex of energy drinks, Balls found that they could comfortably grow their brand with a different strategy. They started targeting gamers. Their push was based around the idea that gamers need more energy to play more games. Suddenly you'd see Balls cross-promoting with all kinds of gaming companies. It was sold at CompUSA, they sponsored events like PAX, and this push towards gamers wound up being a huge success. Well, you know what other demographic famously craves stimulants? The gays. With the slogan, "Get Fired Up," Gay Fuel was unveiled in May of 2004. Released by Specialty Spirits in Florida, it was designed to be best enjoyed as part of a cocktail. Now, with a name like Gay Fuel, it was destined to get a lot of attention right away. And of course, especially with this being 2004, a lot of people thought this was just a joke. But it really was an energy drink specifically marketed towards the gay community.
The gay community.
Well, what could possibly make a drink gay? In one instance, a radio host, Mike Picozzi, who thought this was some kind of prank, called the number that was on the website. He would reach Gay Fuel's COO David Seiner, and David would explain to him this actually was a real energy drink designed for the gay community.
Yes.
Hello, who's this?
Who's this?
Well, this is Picozzi and Rhino and Rube. We're calling from WCCC in Hartford.
I saw that on the caller ID.
Oh, okay. Is this the number for Gay Fuel?
It is.
Oh, okay. Well, we actually saw your product in FHM.
Mm-hmm.
And we were curious if it was real or not.
No,
Actually,
it is a real product.
It's a real product.
You can go to www.gayfuel.com and you can order some online.
Really?
Really, dude?
What makes it Gay Fuel?
What makes it gay? Well, kind of our commitment to the community. We made a drink for them so that we were able to sell. The more we sell, the more we're able to give back. We give 5% of our net profits back to AIDS-related charities.
Oh, that's
okay.
nice. Oh, very nice.
And we spent a year and a half designing a formula that kind of didn't have that bite in the back of your throat like most carbonated drinks, and we designed a drink that is has less sugar than any other energy drink on the market except for sugar-free. And we pasteurized it so that we were able to keep as much natural juice in it as we could.
The way he describes it, maintaining as much of the real juice flavor as possible, it sounds like it might have actually been pretty good. When the drink was unveiled, the designer of the can, Andy Towell, wrote, "Its ingredients include red currant juice, B vitamins, and a secret blend of sexual stimulant herbs. The can is an opalescent silver, and the drink itself is a
Coisa de merda. Lixo.
We need to talk about it some more. So for today's video, let's take a look at some old favorites from that website that I just haven't covered on the channel yet. This video is sponsored by Lilo. Valentine's Day is coming up, and whether you're on your own this year or you've got someone to spend the holiday with, Lilo's got something for you. Lilo's had a reputation for having some of the highest quality pleasure products around. I remember the last time I spoke about them on the channel, I had a bunch of friends hit me up telling me how much they like their stuff. And now, if physical distance is keeping you away from your partner this Valentine's Day, you can use the Love Bridge on the Lilo app to bring them closer. Just set up a discreet private chat room and take control of each other's devices in real time. One such device being Lilo's F1S V3. With 8 powerful pleasure settings, a prolonged battery life, sensonic technology that gives the sensations of sonic waves, and cruise control technology that assures no drops in intensity. Skip the cliches this Valentine's Day and get right to business with Lilo. Click the link below to unlock deals up to 50% off, and use code WANG15 to get an additional 15% off your purchase. Make this V-Day one you'll never forget. In 2012, a radio show in Virginia called the Z Morning Zoo did a series of prank calls live on the air. You've probably heard them before. It starts when the host calls a woman pretending to be a telemarketer. He's advertising a show called WWE Super Slam. Because, you know, that's how wrestling companies promote themselves, just calling up random people like they're running for office. He's talking about the very real event WWE Super Slam as John Cena's theme plays in the background. The woman declines the offer. When he calls back, and he's promoting the show again, she says that she already said no, and now she's starting to get a little annoyed. But he keeps calling back, pretending to be different telemarketers.
Hello?
Hi, can I speak to Champ?
Who?
Champ? Is Champ there?
Who is Champ?
That question will be answered this Sunday night!
Listen,
And each time he does it,
Isso aqui me lembrou uma pérola da internet brasileira. Pérola sagrada da internet brasileira. Isso aqui vai ser interessante de assistir. Então, peraí. Não é. Vocês já sabem o que é.
É aqui? É o amigo do...
Volta, eu vou com isso.
Alô?
Alô, eu queria falar com o Antedegemon.
Com quem?
Com o Antedegemon.
Quem?
Antedegemon.
Quem é?
É o amigo do Antedegemon.
Peraí, não tem ninguém com esse nome.
Claro que não. Tu acha que vai existir alguém chamado Antedegemon?
Isso é uma coisa lógica, só que eu só queria saber quem é.
É aqui? É o amigo do Antedegemon.
Meu Deus. Ô, meu querido, qual é o teu nome?
Meu nome? Meu nome é Antedegemon.
Ai, meu Deus, Cristo. Não, tô falando sério, quem é?
Não, é que aqui, na minha casa, todos os meus irmãos chamam Antedegemon. E todos os meus amigos chamam Antedegemon.
Você tá com a voz de uma pessoa que chama Marcos.
Marcos?
É.
Mas aqui não é o Marcos, aqui é o Antedegemon.
Não, tô falando sério, é o Marquinhos.
Marquinhos? Eu não conheço nenhum Marquinhos. Todas as pessoas que eu conheço se chamam Antedegemon.
Ai, meu Deus do céu.
O que tá falando?
É a Gabriela.
É a Gabriela? Ah, então. Você não tá querendo conhecer o Antedegemon?
Por que a voz desse cara parece a voz do meu chefe, velho? E não unicamente meu chefe também se chama Marcos.
A gente podia combinar alguma coisa assim.
Não,
Sério?
Agradecida? Mas por quê? O que você tem contra o Antedegemon?
Ô, meu querido, tu vai falar teu nome agora ou já?
Tu quer que eu fale meu nome? Eu vou falar.
Fala.
Meu nome é Antedegemon.
Eu sei que é o Marquinhos, meu. Fala logo.
Marquinhos? E que Marquinhos? Da onde? Da onde que você me conhece?
Você é o ex-namorado da minha prima.
Eu sou ex-namorado da sua prima?
Da
Como?
Maite.
Maite? Puta, tu tem uma prima que chama Maite?
Tenho.
Eu acho mais bonito Antedegemon.
Fala logo seu nome, infeliz.
Tu quer que eu te fale?
Quero.
Eu não tenho o menor problema de falar meu nome.
Não
Só que o
fala
pessoal não
que é
acredita.
Antedegemon de novo.
Não é Antedegemon, é Antedegemon.
Você tá falando que o nome dele é Antedegemon.
É Antedegemon. Meu nome é Antedegemon.
Alô?
Alô? Quem é agora?
É a Mariana.
A Mariana? Aqui é o Antedegemon.
Quem é esse infeliz? Quem é você?
Que Marquinho?
Não é ele, Gabi. Alô?
Alô?
Quem é?
É o Antedegemon.
Oi, infeliz. Amor, por favor, fala quem é.
Tu quer que eu fale quem é?
Quero.
Eu vou falar.
Ele tá procurando um Antedegemon.
Não é Antedegemon, é Antedegemon.
Ah, espera um pouquinho. O Antedegemon. Quem é? É o amigo do Antedegemon. Você não quer conhecer o...
Alô, alô, alô?
Alô?
Quem é?
Você não quer falar com ninguém? Então você desliga.
Eu quero falar com o Antedegemon. Vou desligar na minha cara. Ninguém desliga na cara do Antedegemon.
Vou desligar na cara dele, Gabriela. Tchau.
Tchau.
Acabou. Caralho. Inferno de empresa.
I don't know what it was about this meme in particular, but I remember it being so much more mainstream than any other meme I'd seen at that point. It got so popular that Cena himself even remarked that he was honored to be accepted as a part of pop culture in this way. And yet, this format was nothing incredibly new. It's not too dissimilar from the RKO out of nowhere meme, or the French Prince of Bel-Air meme that I spoke about in the Perfection Girl video. In fact, before John Cena, before Randy Orton, this type of meme, or should I say fad, belonged to one Muhammad Hassan 10 years earlier on YTMND. In 2005, Muhammad Hassan, portrayed by an Italian-American wrestler named Mark Copani, was flying to the top of the card in WWE, playing the role of an Arab-American who was pissed about the treatment Arabs had faced in 2000's America.
Se não funciona. Não funciona, logo devia ser de graça, porra.
And with that, Hassan starts interrupting everyone on YTMND. He's in Earthbound. He's also in Batman.
Today's secret word is...
The Hassan character, of course, comes to an abrupt end in July of 2005. That was when a gang of masked Arabs beat and strangled The Undertaker at the behest of Hassan and his manager Daivari. SmackDown at this point was pre-recorded, and when it was set to air, it just so happened that there was an actual real-life terrorist attack. WWE airs the segment anyway, and it gets a ton of mainstream attention with people outraged over how offensive they felt this was. WWE at this point in time has already fallen from the heights of the Attitude Era. They don't want to deal with this. And thus, that's the end of Hassan. A few months ago, he would actually go really in-depth about his time in WWE on Maven's channel, which honestly might be the best YouTube channel by a retired wrestler. What's extra frustrating about this whole story, he notes that he was warning them, especially because they were on network TV, that they were pushing this character in an edgier direction, and he was warning them that something like this is going to happen.
So this was filmed on a Tuesday. The London bombing happened, I believe, on a Thursday morning. SmackDown was set to go on air Thursday evening. They made the decision to air it in its entirety with this match, with Shawn acting like the Muslim martyr being carried out of the ring, with a crawler at the bottom in England just kind of talking about, you know, this might be sensitive to some viewers.
Right.
When this happened on SmackDown, it reached, like, it was in the local newspaper in Syracuse. It was in Time Magazine. It was everywhere. And it's insensitive. And it's frustrating that we went that way. But we went that way to try to get more heat, but we had plenty of heat.
You had heat.
Right, we didn't need to. I promise you, I was very vocal against it at the time. But you know the business.
What are you going to say?
They literally were like, we
don't give a shit, go do it.
Yeah, I got heat because I was like, this is not where the character needs to be.
They don't give a shit.
Why are we doing this right now?
But they didn't listen to him, and he's the one that ultimately paid the price for it. And it's a shame, because he was such a talented guy. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that if things played out differently, that we'd be thinking about this guy like a Hall of Famer. Despite all that, though, he seems like he's completely at peace with how things worked out in the end. He would go on to leave wrestling altogether, becoming a history teacher and eventually a school principal and administrator. He would also co-author a comic book entitled Assassin and Son with his now deceased WWE colleague Shad Gaspard. Muhammad Hassan is often cited as one of the biggest what-ifs in wrestling history, and I agree, but he's rarely given the credit he deserves for his role in internet history. Alright, so how about the Ding Dong song by Gunther and the Sunshine Girls? You might not remember the title, but you'll remember it if I go, ooh, you touch my tra-la-la.
My ding ding dong.
This song was part of one of the biggest YTMND fads of 2004 and 2005. Inspired by the 1984 song Tra-La-La by the Dutch band Phil & Company, the song took off pretty quickly, in part just due to it being a catchy Europop song with a vaguely sexual hook, but also because of the striking image of its singer Gunther, with his short mullet, sleazy sunglasses, and John Waters mustache. It was a very distinct look. I mean, sure, now you could probably find like 50 guys who moved to Bushwick and look exactly like that, but back in 2004 it was something he did as a joke. Past the mere image of Gunther though, the song itself becomes a YTMND fad based around people having their tra-la-las touched. Your tra-la-la, of course, being... And of course, you can have a YTMND fad about forced touching without Brian Peppers. This fad would eventually break YTMND containment, make its way onto aggregation sites like YTMND's best friends at E-Bombs World, and eventually make its way to YouTube. Fans that are introduced to him these days tend to say he looks like Dr. Disrespect, but back then his appearance was so novel that people were making their own parody videos. Dressing up like him with fake mustaches, growing out real mustaches, even recruited their own Sunshine Girls. Gunther himself was well aware of the videos and had a section on his website, GuntherNet, where he would showcase all the fans impersonating him. And unlike a lot of meme songs to that point, Gunther was actually charting and building a fan base that was looking deeper into his catalog. And although a lot of people who have a hit meme song run into the ground and then they disappear forever, Gunther has actually managed to hold on to a sizable fan base throughout the years. Like, I literally cannot think of any other musician who's had this successful of a 20-year career that was basically kicked off from a viral hit. Alright, let's talk about one more. Let's do Tender Crisp Bacon Cheddar Ranch. So, Burger King has always been known for insane ad campaigns. Obviously, you think of the King, with his plastic, unmoving face, that he gets thought of in the same category as slasher villains. Like, you have to wonder if it was a deliberate choice for them to make these Elden Ring enemies that look like the Burger King. But Burger King's surreal marketing sensibilities at that time didn't end with the King. In 2004, Burger King introduced Tender Crisp Chicken, which had a number of insane ad campaigns attached to it. One of them was honestly kind of groundbreaking, the Subservient Chicken. So you would go to this website, subservientchicken.com, and you got what appeared to be a live feed of a giant chicken man standing around in a living room.
Aprecie com moderação.
And the idea is you type in your request and the chicken man does it. Obviously though, there's no actual chicken man on a live feed. If they did this campaign now, there probably would be, but back then it just wasn't happening. It actually worked kind of like an old school text-based adventure game. You type in the commands and if there was something recorded, the chicken man would do it. And they had over 300 different actions recorded. And I know that Burger King these days, they tend to find themselves at the bottom of fast food tier lists, but I remember the Tender Crisp Chicken actually being pretty good. Financially, it was a huge success for Burger King, so they would wind up expanding the Tender Crisp offerings. Probably most famously was the next year in 2005. That was when Burger King introduced the Tender Crisp Bacon Cheddar Ranch sandwich. They did this really trippy commercial featuring not Hootie, but Darius Rucker of Hootie and the Blowfish. He's in a colorful world that kind of looks like the Wizard of Oz, and you got a yellow brick road paved with cheddar cheese, rivers of ranch dressing flowing on a mountain, and sandwiches growing on trees. And while we're watching this all go down, Darius sings a country music song about the sandwich. It's actually a parody of the song Big Rock Candy Mountain. And despite this being a goofy song for a goofy commercial, it's also a bit of an earworm. It's the kind of thing that you're sitting around at work and you're just like thinking to yourself, you're just like, Tender Crisp, Bacon Cheddar Ranch, and someone hears you and then it's stuck in their head. And like a lot of these silly pop culture moments, this one immediately made its way onto YTMND.
When my belly starts a rumbling and I'm jonesing for a treat, I close my eyes for a big surprise, the Tender Crisp Bacon Cheddar Ranch.
While I wasn't there this particular night, I do remember a lot of late nights on YTMND, and you'd see something like this hit the up-and-coming or the recently created sites, which causes a bunch of light bulbs to go off the community and then other people start riffing on it. Usually these things didn't have any lasting power, it would just keep people entertained for a couple hours, but the Tender Crisp Bacon Cheddar Ranch is an earworm. Possibly the most popular one was by Rykar174, and worked the ad into the Darth Vader force choke scene.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed. The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the...
Don't try to frighten us with your sorcerer's ways, Lord Vader.
Then you have this one by Thor Burninator with Michael Moore dancing to the song.
There's tumbleweeds of bacon and cheddar paves the streets.
Actually, I haven't thought about this in a long time, but there are a lot of really good Michael Moore YTMNDs. I gotta do that if I make another one of these. You have this one where the chicken sandwich has replaced the plane chasing Cary Grant in North by Northwest. That one's by a user named Darth Wang, who I swear is not me. He spells it different. According to the YTMND wiki, he was making several of these Tender Crisp sites long after everyone else considered it to be a dead fad. But you know, who cares if it's dead if you make something good with it? Also, apparently that guy has the record for the most sites ever made on YTMND, and actually, now that I'm looking at his profile, he's literally active commenting on sites right now in 2025. And he made this one 2 days ago.
What's new, pussy-ass?
Still making YTMNDs in 2025. You'll love to see it. As a testament to the staying power of this fad, in October of 2020, Sensei Ireland uploaded the Simpsons one.
There's tumbleweeds of bacon and cheddar paves the streets. Folks don't front you cause you got the juice. There's a train of ladies coming with a nice caboose. Never get in trouble, never need an excuse. That's the Tender Crisp Bacon Cheddar Ranch. There's a king who wants you to have it your way. That's the Tender Crisp Bacon Cheddar Ranch.
What I love about having made this video, I know that a bunch of you are going to be stuck with the song in your head now. But anyway, that's all for now. I'm probably going to do more of these in the future, so let me know what other YTMND fads you'd like to see covered. If you like this video, turn on notifications and check out my video about YTMND versus E-Bombs World. I'm out.
A vital step to success in life is often a world-renowned university. Oxford.
In July of 2016, eBay officially banned the sale of human skulls. You might be shocked to hear that they ever allowed the sale of human skulls to begin with. Or maybe you saw my video on that old Real Human Bones Tumblr story. Then you know that the sale of human bones is mostly illegal in the US. You can literally go buy a real human skull right now as you watch this video. Ultimately, eBay changed their policy not because they are compelled legally, but due to ethical concerns that were raised with them after a study suggested that many of the skulls for sale were actually stolen. Some of them might have been sourced from archaeological digs, and others might have gotten there through straight up grave robbing. And they said that allowing sales like this on a site as big as eBay actively encouraged more grave robbing. If you check eBay's rules today, they now have a human parts policy. It bans the sale of human bodies, body parts, and products made from the human body, with an exception made for human hair wigs. The gruesome twosome would be pleased. But eBay's been around since 1995. That's 3 decades ago, and a lot can happen in 3 decades. You probably won't be surprised to hear that eBay has a long storied history with the sale of human body parts, functional organs for transplants, celebrity brain matter, pieces of serial killers. You name it, someone sold it. So for today's video, let's take a look at some of the most notorious cases of human body parts sold on eBay.
Eu não sei se a gente vai terminar de ver esse vídeo.
This video is sponsored by Helix. Helix makes premium mattresses and bedding custom fit to your needs and shipped straight to your door. Everyone sleeps differently, so Helix has you take a sleep quiz to match your body type and sleep preferences. I'm a side sleeper, so Helix set me up with the Sunset mattress. The Helix lineup offers 20 unique mattresses, including their award-winning Luxe and Ultra Premium Elite collections, the Helix Plus, a mattress designed for big and tall sleepers, and the Helix Kids mattress, designed for growing bodies and endorsed by child sleep and medical experts. Helix delivers your mattress right to your door with free shipping in the US. It comes rolled up in a box and it's easy to set up. And make sure you love your Helix mattress. There's a 100 night sleep trial. You also get a 10-year warranty as well as financing options and flexible payment plans. And Helix mattresses are fiberglass free. I've been sleeping on Helix mattresses for a couple years now, and it's some of the best sleep I've gotten. Helix's best of web sale is running right now for a limited time. They're offering you guys an exclusive discount this month. 27% off your mattress purchase plus 2 free pillows. Just go to helixsleep.com/wang or click the link in the description. As one of the first e-commerce sites ever, and one of the very few to survive the bursting of the dot-com bubble, it should be no surprise that the eBay of 2025 is kind of a safe, sterile version of what it once was. Like, yeah, you still got people trying to sell Cheetos that look like dicks for thousands of dollars, but that site really used to be the Wild West. Like, I remember one time Matt from Dinosaur Dracula on his old website, X Entertainment, he did this post where he dug some dirt from his backyard and put it in a jar. Then he poses it for a picture with a bunch of tarot cards, and he sells it on eBay as a magic kit. And someone actually bought it for 20 bucks. I probably saw that post like close to 25 years ago. I remember it just solidifying in my brain that, oh, eBay is not a serious website. But stuff like that would absolutely not fly today. And don't get me wrong, that makes it a much better place to buy and sell things, but it still kind of sucks to see that the soul of eBay is long gone. In fact, you can't even buy a soul on there anymore. Okay, technically you were never actually allowed to buy a soul, but there was at least one major case of such an auction falling through the cracks all the way back in 2001. A 20-year-old from Seattle named Adam Bertle listed his soul on eBay, which he described as hardly used. Although it was eBay's policy to delete listings like this as soon as they found them, this one actually somehow made it all the way to the end. His ex-girlfriend starts things off with a bid of $6.66. And it gets all the way up to $56 by the end. And as still usually happens on eBay, in the closing moments, people went crazy sniping the auction, and ultimately, Adam Bertle's soul was awarded to a woman in Iowa for $400. I hope Bart Simpson realizes how bad Milhouse screwed him. Of course, Adam Bertle never actually expected someone across the country to actually buy his soul for $400. So he had no idea how to actually fulfill his end of the bargain. He told the Seattle Times, "I was just bored, and I'm a geek. So anytime I'm bored, I go back to my internet." eBay suspended his account, and a representative said, "You have to have a piece of merchandise that a seller can deliver to a buyer." And in another similar case reported by Business Insider, eBay got a little more philosophical with their answer. eBay does not allow the auctioning of human souls for the following reasons. If the soul does not exist, eBay could not allow the auctioning of the soul because there would be nothing to sell. However, if the soul does exist, then, in accordance with eBay's policy on human parts and remains, we would not allow the auctioning of human souls. The ban on body parts would be continually tested throughout the site's history. A very common early example was kidneys. One of the early examples of this was widely reported in August of 1999. A user named HC Hero made a listing that read, "Fully functional kidney for sale. You can choose either kidney. Buyer pays all transplant and medical costs. Of course, only one for sale, as I need the other one to live. Serious bids only." As was the case with Adam Bertel's story, although these auctions usually got shut down as soon as they are found, this one also managed to slip through the cracks. Bids started at $25,000, and they made it all the way up to $5.7 million before getting pulled, with eBay, of course, citing its ban on human body parts. However, unlike in a lot of cases where eBay was simply making a judgment call, it actually is illegal to sell your own kidney. Which frankly, I mean, that's a little messed up, in my opinion. I have to give my kidney away for free, and meanwhile, that kidney goes into the system and everyone else who touches it gets fabulously wealthy. I know when I say this, I sound like the toaster license guy, but I should be able to make money off my own damn kidneys. Think about it, that'd be the best piece of YouTuber merch ever. Although the auction got pulled, it did spawn a lot of imitators, including a bunch that were archived by whattheheck.com. One was made by a user named Cam Curtis, who tried to skirt the laws with a little clever wording. "Will donate perfectly healthy kidney for a reciprocal donation of $2.5 million to a charity of my choice. Please call and leave message. Absolutely serious inquiries, please. Kidney recipient to pay all medical expenses for both parties." Oh yeah, what was this supposed charity? The Human Fund? People also tried listing other organs, like say, a testicle, or...
Você conhece a modalidade de pagamento via Pix nativo? Com a PagHiper, você oferece mais essa solução de pagamento com uma opção
Or as he put it, one healthy testy for trade. Seriously. Starts at $500,000. Yeah, dog, I don't think you're ever getting $500,000 for your ball. I don't think they were paying that much when they were buying women's ovaries off of Craigslist. Oh yeah, and of course, a penis. Just like John Bobbitt, who you might remember from Saving Val Venus from Kai and Tai fame. My wife has cut off my penis for cheating on her. I've put it on ice. The doctors tell me it is still operational. I have decided to go with a smaller penis. So I am selling this one. It is 11 inches long when erect, with no warts or any other kind of VD. Feel free to ask for a scan. I think like when you first read this listing, you're thinking like a CAT scan or like, you know, some one of those like X-ray type things. But considering the time period, I literally think he meant he's gonna stick his dick in a scanner and fucking... Understand that this is a pre-phone camera world. Starts at $25,000. For this guy is giving away his entire meat for a fraction of that guy's one ball. These guys cutting their dicks off and selling them. It's almost as unreasonable as the retro game. What do these guys think this is? The retro games market? Come on, bro. It's just the testicles. It's not like you're selling a complete new in-box Earthbound for Super Nintendo. Despite all these auctions obviously being very silly, it surprisingly did inspire a lot of conversation about the logistics of making such a deal, the state of organ donations in the country, and just internet law in general. A lot of the coverage noted that eBay at the time actually had no system for dealing with this. They relied entirely on user reports, and if something didn't get reported, they just wouldn't see it. Time magazine said, with close to 6 million users posting to the site, the company says there's no way to stay on top of every listing. And if the company tried, it could be liable for anything that got through. It's really interesting to see an assessment like that in 1999, because at that point in time, we hadn't really gotten the laws that allowed for sites like YouTube to be able to have content without being held responsible for every single thing put on there. So at this time, people really weren't sure, what would happen in that case. And I remember not that long ago, I think it was in Europe, they were having some kind of law debated that would essentially screw websites over like that. Something where companies would be held for everything their users post. And it would even extend to search engines. I don't remember what it was called. But it's 1999, so barely anything's codified at this point. People are just making guesses. And while a lot of this was very obviously just jokes, a lot of healthcare professionals did take the opportunity to express concern about the state of organ donations. The LA Times noted that at the time, there were 42,907 patients in the US waiting for a kidney donation. And according to the National Kidney Foundation, that number now in 2025 is up to 123,000. Of course, if you're wealthy enough, you're playing a completely different game. As one of the doctors that Time magazine spoke to noted, a person who can afford $5.7 million to buy a kidney on eBay probably has way better options. Although ostensibly those listings were for people who needed kidney transplants, another significant portion of sales like this on eBay were for memorabilia. The true crime junkies who watch this channel are probably familiar with the name Roy Norris. Along with Lawrence Bittaker, he was one of the serial killers known as the Toolbox Killers. named for the devices they used to torture teenage girls in the summer of 1979. After being caught, Norris pled guilty and would testify against Bittaker, who he felt manipulated him into participating in the murders. Although psychologists said that this was part of a pattern of shifting responsibility for his actions. Bittaker would get the death penalty while Norris got life with parole, although ultimately he would die behind bars in 2019. While in prison, like a lot of infamous murderers, Norris would often correspond with people in the outside world through the mail. Some of these messages would be sold through various auction outlets online, but perhaps the most interesting one was posted to eBay in July of 1999. Serial killer fingernails signed. Although the photos from this specific listing seem to be long gone, with a starting bid of $9.99, here's what you're getting. 3 of Roy's fingernails, affixed with a small piece of tape to a recycled card, the back of a portion of a color Christmas card, approximately 4 by 2.5 in size. He's penned a long note authenticating the nails, which fills half of the card. At bottom right, he's signed in full over a perfect right thumbprint, in black ink. Absolutely guaranteed authentic for life, or your money back. The nails would eventually wind up in the collection of a crime victims advocate, Andy Kahn of Houston, Texas. In an interview with local news station KHOU, Andy spoke about his efforts to stop what he calls murderabilia. He acquired the nails and a lot of similar items while investigating this phenomenon that he assumed was illegal. Although some laws have been passed in certain parts of the country, the practice still remains mostly legal. But in 2001, eBay banned the sight of most of this memorabilia, and in the wake of this rule change, several more sites like Murder Auction and Supernaut popped up. And here's a bunch of autographed nail clippings that I found on Supernaut. But in the grand scheme of things, serial killers are kind of small potatoes. What if we aimed a little bit higher? How about the body parts of a dictator? This is one that was actually shown to me by Wavy Web Surf somewhat recently. So in November of 2009, a listing was made by an anonymous eBay user. For the price of 15,000 euros, you could own the blood and brains of Italian dictator Benito Mussolini. You might be asking, how does one come to acquire the blood and brains of Mussolini? On April 28th of 1945, Mussolini and his mistress were executed by firing squad. Their bodies were later brought to Piazzale Loreto, where the corpses were brutally beaten, spat on, and hanged by their feet. Afterwards, an autopsy was performed, and they determined that the bullets killed them. The hospital in Milan that performed the autopsy would later receive a letter from a psychiatrist in Washington, D.C., named Winfred Overholser. He wanted to study Mussolini's brain. But it's not like, he could just get the brain and trace the wrinkles and see what's going on there. It's because of a theory that he had something called general paresis, which is what happens when syphilis goes untreated and spreads to the brain. Some people believe that this could be an explanation for his behavior. So multiple samples of Mussolini's brain were sent to Overholser in Washington, D.C. After examining the brain, he determined that it was totally normal. There was no syphilis, he was just like that. After the research was done, it was said that these brain samples were disposed of. This, of course, was a lie.
Quando você conecta seu alarme Verisure, sua casa fica protegida contra roubo. Protegemos todos os acessos à sua casa com sensores.
In the years following,
a sífilis realmente pode se espalhar pro cérebro, só para deixar claro, porque ela é uma doença que se espalha em qualquer área do corpo que seja irrigada por vaso sanguíneo.
There was talk around Washington, D.C. of an infamous Mussolini brain sample that was still floating around, but this was largely believed to be an urban legend. Then in 1955, reporter John McElway caught up with Winfred Overholser, and then Overholser would show him something. A glass vial labeled Mussolini brain. And inside was a chunk of organ tissue that the reporter said resembled chicken liver. Mussolini's body was returned to his wife 2 years later in 1957, but the body they received was missing the brain. So of course she started to demand that the brain also be returned to her. She pestered them about it for nearly a decade, and finally in 1966, she's handed an envelope from an American diplomat, and inside the envelope is chunks of Mussolini's brain, but they couldn't get it all. Overholser died in 1964, and nobody knew what happened to the sample that was in his possession. And then one day in 2009, an eBay auction supposedly pops up with a wooden box, and inside the wooden box are 3 glass vials of his blood and brains, supposedly sourced from the original autopsy at Policlinico Hospital in Milan, which of course would be the same source that Overholser got his. The auction remained up for a couple hours, but eBay was able to take it down before any bids were made. But it became international news after it received the attention of Mussolini's granddaughter, Alessandra Mussolini. In her younger days, Alessandra was an actress and a model who released a city pop album in Japan, but she decided to give up showbiz after being asked to change her name. And with that life behind her, she would go on to continue her grandfather's work as a politician in Italy. Ironically, the very moment that she found out about this eBay listing, she just happened to be at a conference on internet crime. So she immediately goes to talk to the police, and then she makes a statement to the press. Referring to her as a right-wing politician and former showgirl, the Telegraph quotes her as saying, "This is very serious. These are the kinds of things we have to guard against." She would go on to say that the police are on the case, and they've assured her that whoever made this eBay auction is going to be backtraced, the cyber police are going to get them, and consequences will never be the same. She was also certain that the source of the brain matter was, once again, Policlinico Hospital in Milan. Representatives of the hospital quickly responded. They said that the samples that they had of Mussolini's brain were destroyed a few years after the autopsy. Of course, a similar claim was made about Overholser's sample, and that was a lie. And if there was anything that someone was gonna lie about, it would be something like this. Like, the more I think about it, like really putting myself in that situation, there's just no way that someone was tasked with destroying one of the most famous chunks of brain to ever exist, and just destroying it. They definitely pocketed it. But despite being sure it came from the hospital in Milan, she also said that it might have been from Washington, D.C., or maybe it was just a lie. Boundary Stones, a website about local Washington, D.C. history, would look back into Dr. Overholser's sample in 2015. And they actually found some people debating over whether or not the Overholser sample ever actually existed. Officials had no problem finding the half of the brain slivers stored away at the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology. But when it came time to search for the sample once kept in Dr. Overholser's safe, the St. Elizabeth staff was stupefied. It was nowhere to be found, nor did any record of it exist in the hospital documents. Some even doubted its presence at St. Elizabeth's at all. Dr. Solomon Katzenelbogen, director of research in 1945, recalled talk of the brain, but didn't remember ever seeing it. If it was studied, he claimed, the very meticulous pathologist on staff would have made a careful record, but others were sure of its existence. McElway testified that he had seen the brain, and St. Elizabeth's then superintendent, Dr. David Harris, confirmed.
Tchau.